British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon, my name is Jonah Jung, and these are the news headlines for 3:30. Authorities say there is no tsunami risk as of now in the coastal area, as there have been a 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. The National Tsunami Warning Center has advised a level of danger in coastal BC. The BC Ministry of Emergency Management says a tsunami advisory is in force for the Aleutian Islands. Today is International Equal Pay Day. As reporter Leah Warren found out, wage inequality is a systematic issue in Canada.
In 2024, Stats Canada released that for every dollar a man makes, a woman makes 84 cents. UBC Allard School of Law professor Margot Young suggests that the wage gap is a single branch of the systemic sexism that pollutes the country. Speaking from experience, she says that sexism in the workplace has not improved throughout her tenure as a university professor.
Frankly, the sexism isn't better. I thought as I got older, I would experience it less, but it's still there. It's so entrenched and so undiscussed.
She adds that women's roles in society and their leadership abilities are generally undervalued. Leah Warren, BCIT News.
Truth and Reconciliation is coming up next week. As newcomers make their way to Canada, accessible resources are being provided to educate them about Indigenous matters. Selena Teixeira has more on the story.
In the week before Truth and Reconciliation Day, there have been various events giving the community education about the Indigenous considerations in Canada. With an introduction to Indigenous land acknowledgements, common terminology, and changes like UNDRIP, the Vancouver Public Library hosts an event relaying these materials. Amara Charters, who works in the Programming and Learning Department, explains its impact.
We think it is really important for the library to be a resource for folks around truth and reconciliation, Indigenous considerations, because people are coming to us and we need to be prepared to answer their questions and provide them information in an accessible format.
Libraries provide important information, welcoming newcomers to learn more about the Indigenous considerations in Canada. Selena Teixeira, BCIT News.
Surrey Libraries host a sensory story time at 3 of their branches designed for those with neurodivergence. Our reporter Eden Chipperfield has more on the benefits of sensory environments.
Sensory rooms provide stimulating equipment for those on the autism and ADHD spectrum. The National Library of Medicine found that a controlled environment helps sensory behavior. Chloe Humphreys, manager of youth services at Surrey Libraries, said that the program provides extension activities that aid in stimulation to remove barriers for those typically unable to participate due to overwhelming environments.
The story is about a dog and a bunch of different colors, like the dog is getting, walking along the street and stepping in, something that's orange and blue and things like that. Then we would, at the back of the room, have a station where we've got actually like manipulatables and things that are in those different colors and maybe a dog puppet.
Other features of sensory storytime include dimming lights, rolling out carpets, and providing sensory toys. Eden Chipperfield, BCIT News.
The University of British Columbia is replacing the existing irrigation lines on the UBC farms as they are aging and prone to leaking. Chris Loro, the micro-credential project lead at the UBC farm, says this can be helpful for farming. UBC says the high-density polymethylene pipelines will be installed next to the existing lines, asking students to be careful around the farm area. BC Premier David Eby says he has concerns about the federal funding being used to buy ferries from Chinese companies. Eby says the discussion about the ferries happened during a meeting with newly appointed Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon as he's in Ottawa. Before BC Ferries announced in June, the Globe and Mail asked the BC Premier about how Transport Canada had received warnings before BC Ferries announced that it was buying 4 ships from state-owned Chinese Weihai shipyards. Former Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland said she was dismayed by the deal as Canada Infrastructure Bank loaned BC Ferries $1 billion. EB expresses his disappointment about the poor treatment towards ferry users in British Columbia. Health Canada is funding a new training program on endometriosis for family doctors and physicians in emergency rooms. The head of Endometriosis Network Canada, Katie Luciani, says 10% of girls and women have the disease, saying diagnosing it takes years.
Your family doctor is really the person that can open that door for you. And so if that person knows endometriosis and knows what those signs are and what those symptoms are and knows what those paths forward is, it's life-changing. And if your family doctor doesn't know about endometriosis, that's sort of the first barrier that you come across.
Endometriosis happens when the tissue around the uterus grows in other parts of the body, leading to severe pain and infertility. Canadian Finance Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne says the country will fill Europe's growing demand for industry as it did during the World War II. Minister says Canada should move away from relying on the U.S. economically, adding that Europe is a perfect place for Canadian defense firms. He compares the economic changes to Canada's efforts during the horrific war.
We did it during the war. Go back to 1945. Canada was the center of the Allied production when it came to planes. Canada was at the center of production when it came to ships. Canada was at the center of production when it came to military vehicles.
As Champagne heads to Denmark to meet other finance ministers in the EU to create more ties with European countries. As Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting Mexico, the Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum says she's focusing on issuing short-term work visas and expanding ocean trade routes between two countries. Carney has arrived in Mexico City today to meet with the Mexican president as both leaders face trade challenges driven by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff attacks. The Mexican president has dropped the expansion of special Canadian work visas for Mexicans and Mexico-Canada trade routes through the Pacific and Atlantic coasts. Sheinbaum says Carney's visit offers an opportunity to establish a great relationship between Mexico and Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney is appointing one of his political aides, David Lametti, the former Justice Minister under the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as Canada's next ambassador to the United Nations. Kyle Duggan from the Canadian Press has more.
The Prime Minister's office says Justin Trudeau's former Justice Minister, David Lametti, will replace former Liberal leader Bob Rae as Canada's representative at the UN. Lametti was brought into Carney's office in July to serve as his principal secretary, but Tom Pitfield, Trudeau's chief digital strategist, who is married to Quebec Liberal MP Anna Gainey, has remained on board as principal secretary since the spring and shared the role with Lametti for weeks. Kyle Duggan, The Canadian Press, Ottawa.
A judge is blocking the U.S. government from immediately deporting Guatemalan migrant children back to their home country. The U.S. District Judge Timothy J. Kelly has announced after the Republican administration has tried to kick out Guatemalan immigrant children living in government shelters and foster cares. Immigration and children's advocates sued to stop deportation, saying majority of these children are fleeing abuse or due to abuse or violence. Kelly's decision extends the temporary order while the case goes on. A prosecutor says the suspect allegedly killed 3 officers who came to arrest him after hiding in his ex-girlfriend's house. York County District Attorney Tim Barker says the alleged suspect's motives have not yet been determined.
There is one motive, though, that is clear for everything, and that is the hateful scourge of domestic violence.
3 out of the 4 officers who were there were killed. The police arrived at the scene at about 2:10 p.m. The alleged suspect noticed the door was open to the home and unlocked the door, although his ex-girlfriend and her mother had locked it before leaving their home. The Toronto Maple Leafs hits the ice for the first time during the training camp. The head coach of the team, Craig Berube, says he likes what he saw regarding the physicality of the group. He says the group is aiming to improve on last spring's second-round playoff to the Florida Panthers.
It's a tough day. It's a lot of battling. It's intense, and players, they could go out and make it as intense as they want, but I thought it was really intense.
The Leafs have topped the Atlantic Division with 108 points. The city of Vancouver is honoring the renowned Canadian actor Ryan Reynolds by bestowing him the Freedom of the City, an award given to individuals who have gained international acclaim in arts, business, and philanthropy. Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim has praised Reynolds by calling him the hometown pride and a proud Vancouverite who never forgets where he came from and always gives back. From Kids Pool to Deadpool, the beloved Canadian actor led his career while making his love of Vancouver known by running an Instagram account called Van City Reynolds. He has shown support for the local community by supporting the Covenant House Vancouver and the Greater Vancouver Food Bank, two local organizations that help youth and the homeless. Reynolds says Vancouver shaped who he is and that he will carry it with him in everything he does. The temperature this afternoon will most likely be 17 Celsius, with 80% humidity. These have been your news headlines for 1 p.m. My name is Jonah Jung for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
I would recommend this program for anyone that isn't sure what kind of job they want in media, because you learn everything from like public relations to communications to video editing, like radio, TV. So you do get a lot of experience in all the different fields in media.